right, well, before we get started with the actual talk, we're going to do a quick test of the clickers just to make sure everything's working. So tell me, when did TED begin? 1974, 1984, or 1994? All right, last call. Ooh, 1984. That's all right. All right, but everyone knows how to use the clickers. That's what's important. All right. I have a confession to make. I haven't been totally honest with you. It's not that I meant to deceive you. It's just that I haven't really told you everything about what's going on. So I've come here today to tell you more, and I hope that you'll consider for yourself whether the truth changes the way that you see me. Why confess? Because the longer that I've had the privilege of working with you in our classrooms, the more I've realized that there are invisible boundaries between us, assumptions and misconceptions that actually detract from our shared experience. I used to think that to be an effective instructor, I had to be very structured and very consistent, or what you on course evaluation surveys refer to as way too strict. I still think I need to be structured and consistent, but I've also come to understand that I need to be more open about my own experience if I want to truly engage you with me and engage you with each other. But before I confess, I'm going to ask you to confess. I feel nervous on the first day of classes. Always, often, sometimes, or never. All right. So the overwhelming majority admit to feeling nervous at least some of the time. Well, I'll never forget one of the first classes I taught. It was a 3-week intro to psych section in the summer for incoming freshmen. And imagine walking into this very room full of students. They were already there when my teaching assistants and I got there. We went to set up the projector, and there were some technical problems that were taking a while to fix. So a few moments after the official start time of the class, a student in the very first row raises his hand and politely asks, "Excuse me, is the actual teacher going to be here today?" In an instant, I was mortified. I was filled with doubt. There was no way that these students were going to think that I was qualified to be a teacher, let alone a good teacher. And from the collective and awkward gasp of the rest of the class and the shade of red his face turned, I imagine he felt as uncomfortable as I did. So here's what I didn't want you to know. I want you to like me. Now, before I get 100 pity friend requests on Facebook, let me just clarify. I don't mean that kind of like. I mean I want you to like me as a teacher. I want you to think that I'm a reasonable and approachable person that's interesting to talk to, that I'm witty and well-informed, that I'm helpful and dedicated. And I, too, have the same moments of feeling nervous, wanting someone else to like me, indeed, wanting everyone else to like me. And I used to think that for you to take me seriously, I had to pretend as though as long as you learned, I was ultimately indifferent as to whether or not you like me, but that simply isn't the truth. Now, I also have to confess that I stacked the deck in my favor. On our first day of class, I try to be funny, and when I tell you about my background, I shamelessly show you gratuitous pictures of me working with chimpanzees, training dolphins, and as a volunteer firefighter. I also have learned I need to point out that's an abandoned house that they donated for us to train in. We generally don't stop and pose for pictures outside of your house fires. And I and the university invite you to share your feedback in course evaluation surveys. And when I get the email that those surveys are available, my world stops. And when I click on that link and I read something like, "Taking this course was amazing. I loved taking it. And even though it was at 9:30 a.m. course in my last semester, I would still suggest it to every psych major I know. I feel like I won the conference championship. They like me. They really, really like me." And when you can get a last semester student to like you at what they think is early in the morning, that's the World Cup. But then in the next moment, I read, "Roberts has an exalted view of himself, and if he wants to play the part of the life-altering teacher he believes himself to be, he needs to make it worthwhile for his students. The ego trip is amusing. His class is in no way a reflection of what a course at this university should be." No matter how many courses I teach, no matter how many students I work with, no matter how many glowing comments there are on one page, this stings. I confess that I'm a human, and when it gets personal, I care. I really do want your constructive criticism because it makes me a better teacher, just as I hope that my feedback helps you. But I know that no matter what I do, there's always going to be somebody that's upset about the outcome of a course. So listen, if you're mad at me and you want to hurt me, you don't have to write long, scathing paragraphs. All you have to say is, I dislike you. Now, again, I'm going to ask you to confess something to me. I use my phone for non-class purposes during class meetings. Some of you might need to put your phones away right now to answer. Always, often, occasionally, or never. So everyone admits to doing it at least some of the time, and 1% of us are liars. That's fine. That's typical. Well, the second thing that I wanted to confess to you is that I'm a hypocrite. I have done things that I will tell you not to do. In fact, I guess I've probably done a lot of things a lot of people have told you not to do. But for example, I'll admit that while I was a graduate student, I spent the greater part of a particularly dry weekly seminar playing online pool. I'm not particularly proud of that, though I have to say I did get pretty good at online pool. But even now, from time to time, I take out my phone during a meeting or a presentation. I have to be better at walking my talk. But I will tell you what every hypocrite tells you. Do as I say anyway. And here's why. My colleague Ryan Curtis and I have used those very same clickers to study this in our classrooms, and the data tells the story. We gave a surprise quiz at the end of the class, and we asked students what they had been doing. Students that confess to using their phone or their laptop more learn less. Now, what I thought was also really interesting about this was it didn't matter whether you were doodling, which actually surprised me because I've walked around the room and I've seen a lot of really elaborate drawings. Now, the next semester, we randomly told one of the two sections of the course to put all the toys away, and that class significantly outperformed the class that had the option to use those devices. And so I think the bottom line is that when we busy ourselves with anything, we don't really experience what's going on around us. Now, there's also something in this room that I hate, and I know I'm not supposed to use the word hate, but I'm going to say it anyway. I hate grades. I hate grades. I sometimes get the feeling that students imagine me like a cartoon villain sitting behind my desk, laughing maniacally as I craft exam questions that will confuse and defeat them. Like I grade your papers with a cigar in my mouth, champagne in my hand, and a smile on my face as I celebrate failing another helpless victim. I hate grades because they make students think more about grades than the value of what they're learning. The quality of your experience has nothing to do with whether you earn a B+ or an A-. And I truly hate holding that over your head. As someone who spent way too much of his own life as a student, I fully understand there are real consequences to those grades and to the numbers that go on to represent you. But we're not doing this for grades. We're doing this to prepare you to be successful in your own professional lives. And so to do that, we have to hold you to those same professional standards. I will assign grades because it's expected of me. But please understand that the points are meaningless compared to the ideas, to the talents, and to the passions that we're here to discover, develop, and apply. I will always gladly meet with you to discuss your grade, but understand I wish you and I would talk more about what you've learned, why it's important, and what it's going to take to master the rest. Now, let me ask you another question. How many alcoholic beverages has the average person in this room had in the last 7 days? Before you click, I want you to actually look around, look at each other. And of the people in this room, in the last 7 days, how many alcoholic beverages has the average person consumed? All right, go ahead and click in. Don't discuss it. Hold on, don't tell each other. Just click in what you think the average person's done. All right. Now, you don't get to see this graph yet. But, and you probably saw this coming, now I want you to confess. How many alcoholic beverages have you had in the past 7 days? If you're still counting, it's probably 9+. But go ahead, tell the truth, click in. All right. Well, another thing that I want to confess is that I was wrong about you. When I first started teaching, I thought that if you weren't earning an A, it's because you were too busy partying. I know now that that's generally not the truth. I was wrong about you, but I was not alone. It turns out that you were probably wrong about each other as well. The blue bars represent what you assumed everyone was doing, and the red bars represent what they're actually doing. You largely overestimated how much people had actually been drinking. Now, Dr. Curtis and I ask our students these same kinds of questions about alcohol use, sexual behavior, drug use, and even academic dishonesty. And the pattern's always the same. Students overestimate how common these experiences are among their peers, even as much as 5 times. So I think that the lesson here is that we all need to confess more. We need to tell more to each other about our real experiences, because otherwise we're left with those boundaries, those assumptions and misconceptions, and we end up experiencing something that isn't even real. I didn't come here to confess on behalf of all instructors. I came here to tell you more about myself, but I certainly hope that there are others out there who can relate to my experience and feel inspired to share these confessions or their own confessions with their students. And indeed, I hope you will confess more to your own peers. Either way, it feels really good to get this all off my chest. And our classrooms are divided by our titles. I'm the teacher, you're the student. But I think you'd find that our experiences have way more in common with each other than you would have guessed. So the next time you see me in class, remember that we're all humans experiencing learning together, and anything that stands between us as humans stands between our goals. So I thank you for giving me the chance to speak my mind and share this with you, and I hope that understanding more about my experience and the experience of your peers gives you a more genuine experience in our classrooms. Thank you.